The Galactic Council chamber was filled with laughter. The challenge was simple: survive for 100 years on one of the deadliest planets ever discovered. The strongest species in the galaxy had attempted it, and most had failed. Some barely lasted a decade, while the best survivors struggled for centuries just to make it through. Now, humans had stepped forward. A tall, blue-skinned Selthran official chuckled, his mandibles clicking. "Are they serious? They won't last a year," a reptilian Scar commander scoffed. "They have no exoskeleton, no natural weapons, weak muscles. Why would they even try?" The council members looked at the human delegation, expecting fear, hesitation, anything to show weakness. Instead, the humans smiled. Ambassador Carter, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes, folded his arms. "We accept the challenge." The room fell silent for a moment before the laughter resumed, louder this time. The council officials shook their heads. This would be entertaining. A death world awaits. The testing planet, Gorath 7, was a nightmare. Raging storms tore through the land. The air was toxic, filled with microscopic parasites that burrowed into flesh. The ground was unstable. Volcanoes erupted unpredictably, and massive predators lurked in every shadow. It was a place where even time itself was cruel. Radiation from the twin suns accelerated aging, wearing down bodies far faster than normal. The last species to try, the Jorvans, a warrior race with quadruple-layered armor plating. They lasted 23 years before their civilization collapsed into cannibalism. Now, humans were stepping in. As the dropships carrying the human team descended, the Galactic Council watched from orbit. "They'll beg to leave within a month," a Selthran official muttered. "Bet on a week," a scarred general laughed. "The countdown begins." The moment the landing ramps lowered, the humans moved like a machine. They didn't panic. They didn't hesitate. Instead of scrambling for survival, they acted like they had done this before. Teams spread out instantly, setting up defensive perimeters. Engineers scanned the air and started deploying filtration units. Within minutes, they had a functioning water supply. A group of hunters and biologists studied the land. Instead of avoiding the massive creatures, they observed them, noting their hunting patterns and weaknesses. Within 3 hours, humans had already established shelters, found food sources, secured fresh water, started mapping the terrain. The Galactic Council watched in confusion. This wasn't how survival worked. Every species that came before them struggled for years just to do what humans had done in an afternoon. "Are they enjoying this?" an alien observer asked in disbelief. "This is a joke, right?" By nightfall, the humans weren't hiding from the dangers of the planet. They were studying them. When a six-legged predator attacked, expecting easy prey, the humans trapped it, studied it, and learned its weaknesses. When a volcanic eruption threatened their base, they redirected the lava using makeshift barriers. Instead of fighting against the planet, humans were adapting to it. For them, survival wasn't a challenge. It was Tuesday. "Commander," a Scar officer whispered, eyes wide with fear, "I think we made a mistake." The council officials had been so sure that humans were fragile, so sure that they would fail. But in just one day, humans had proven something terrifying. They weren't here to survive the challenge. They were here to beat it. The Galactic Council members watched in stunned silence as the first day on Gorath 7 came to an end. Every other species that attempted the challenge spent their first weeks barely clinging to life, struggling against the merciless conditions. Yet, the humans were different. They didn't scramble for survival. They took control. By the time the twin suns dipped below the horizon, their settlement was already secure. A fortified perimeter surrounded their shelters, scavenged materials had been turned into working tools, and their fire burned brightly against the darkness. Even more disturbing was their attitude. There was no fear, no desperation, just calculated efficiency. Some of them were even joking around, laughing as if they were on some kind of outdoor adventure rather than trapped on a death world. The council officials whispered among themselves, unsettled by how relaxed the humans seemed. Reports showed that they had already begun analyzing the environment, mapping out predator migration patterns, identifying edible plants, and even testing different methods of neutralizing the toxic air. Most species spent years trying to figure out these survival basics. The humans were doing it in mere hours. Deep in the wild, the alien predators of Goreth-7 stalked their new prey, massive creatures with razor-sharp claws and unnatural speed. Yet, when they attacked, they found themselves outmatched, not by brute strength, but by something far worse. Humans did not fight like cornered prey. They fought like a species that had mastered war. When a pack of six-legged hunters lunged at their camp, they were met with carefully laid traps, crude but effective barriers, and humans who moved in perfect coordination. They did not panic. They did not flee. They studied. The first wave of predators was not just repelled. They were captured, dissected, and analyzed before the humans even considered them a real threat. The council members exchanged nervous glances. This was supposed to be a demonstration of why humans were weak, why they didn't belong among the strongest of the galaxy. Instead, it was becoming a lesson in why they should be feared. A Selthran official scoffed, attempting to regain his composure. Let's see how they handle the planet's real dangers. The weather shifts will begin soon, and they won't be laughing when the acid storms arrive. Yet even as he spoke, the humans were already preparing. They weren't waiting for the planet to test them. They were testing the planet. A team of engineers was constructing makeshift shelters reinforced with whatever materials they could salvage. Others were developing protective gear, figuring out how to neutralize the corrosive rain before it even began. They weren't reacting to the danger. They were anticipating it. As the night stretched on, the Galactic Council realized a horrifying truth. The humans weren't just surviving Goreth-7. They were conquering it. By the second day, the humans had already done what no other species had accomplished in decades. They had made Goreth-7 their home. While previous challengers spent years battling starvation, sickness, and relentless predator attacks, the humans had flipped the script. Instead of fearing the creatures of the planet, they were hunting them. Instead of avoiding the toxic plants, they were extracting their useful compounds. Instead of waiting for disaster to strike, they were preparing for it in advance. The Galactic Council could only watch in disbelief as live footage showed human teams moving through the dense, hostile terrain without hesitation. They mapped the land with handheld drones, tracked creatures with motion sensors, and communicated in short, efficient bursts. There was no wasted movement, no hesitation, only precision. Then, as the officials observed from orbit, the skies darkened. The acid storm arrived, a phenomenon that had wiped out entire species in the past. Great sheets of corrosive rain poured from the sky, melting stone, reducing plant life to sludge, and creating deadly rivers of burning liquid. The council leaned forward, expecting panic, chaos, and desperate struggles for shelter. Instead, the humans were prepared. They had seen the storm coming hours in advance, analyzed the composition of the acid, and coated their shelters in a neutralizing compound. They had even designed drainage systems to redirect the deadly rainfall away from their camp. While other species would have cowered, humans were collecting samples, studying the storm, and laughing about how it reminded them of that one mission on Venus. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The challenge was supposed to prove human weakness. Instead, it was revealing something far more unsettling: their adaptability, their resilience, their sheer refusal to die. Meanwhile, deep within the planet's wilderness, something even more concerning was happening. The apex predators, massive, armored beasts that ruled Goreth-7, were avoiding the human settlement. These creatures, which had slaughtered every previous challenger, were now acting hesitant. They had seen their kind captured, studied, and outsmarted in a single day. The beasts were not intelligent by galactic standards, But they understood one thing very clearly: humans were dangerous. The council members were beginning to feel the same way. The Galactic Council chambers were filled with an uneasy silence. Every species present had seen countless contestants struggle and fail against Gorath-7's brutal conditions. But now, the impossible was unfolding before their eyes. The humans were not only surviving, they were thriving. Instead of fighting against the planet's dangers, they were using them to their advantage. Acid storms that should have melted their bones were now being harvested for chemical resources. Apex predators that once ruled the land were being tracked, trapped, and studied with eerie efficiency. Even the smallest details of the ecosystem were being logged, categorized, and repurposed for human use. The real shock came when the human camp expanded. By the third day, they weren't just maintaining their territory. They were pushing outward. A group of humans, equipped with makeshift weapons and armor crafted from local materials, marched into the dense wilderness with a clear goal: eliminate any lingering threats. They moved with an unsettling calm, communicating in clipped, coded phrases that made it clear this was not their first survival mission. The cameras followed as they encountered a nest of venomous, multi-limbed hunters, the same creatures that had slaughtered past challengers in mere minutes. But instead of being ambushed, the humans were ready. In a matter of seconds, coordinated traps snapped into place. The creatures screeched as nets, spears, and homemade incendiary weapons neutralized them with precision. The battle wasn't desperate or chaotic. It was controlled, planned. Within an hour, the human squad returned with something the Council had never seen before: domesticated predators. Somehow, through a mix of dominance and strange human persistence, they had managed to break the will of the planet's most feared beasts. Footage showed humans casually feeding them, even riding some of the larger ones, as if they were nothing more than trained hunting animals. The Council members were horrified. Every species had assumed that the humans would break beneath Gorath-7's horrors. Instead, they had tamed those horrors. One official, a reptilian diplomat from the Salvir Dominion, finally spoke the words everyone was thinking. This was meant to test their limits. He swallowed hard, watching as the humans laughingly planned their next move. But I do not think they have any. The Council's unease had turned into outright fear. The humans were not just enduring Gorath-7. They were reshaping it. On the fifth day, satellite scans revealed something unprecedented: a fully operational base. What had started as a simple survival camp had transformed into a structured outpost, complete with watchtowers, reinforced barricades, and even rudimentary energy sources harvested from the planet's unstable magnetic fields. This wasn't survival anymore. This was domination. Down on the surface, the humans had divided into specialized teams. Some focused on expanding their territory, clearing paths through the dense jungle with homemade explosives crafted from minerals extracted from the soil. Others worked on refining the local water supply, filtering out toxins and developing makeshift irrigation systems. But the most disturbing development was their continued taming of Gorath-7's wildlife. The very creatures that had once terrorized contestants were now serving the humans. Packs of six-legged hunters that had once ambushed previous challengers now acted as patrol animals, stalking the perimeter under human command. Even the apex predators, once thought to be untamable, had begun displaying something that unsettled the Council deeply: submission. "They're not just surviving," an Andulian observer muttered, his tendrils twitching with nervous energy. "They're reprogramming the ecosystem." As if to prove his point, a new transmission came in. The humans had constructed a beacon, not a distress signal, but a declaration. The holographic message was simple, delivered with an almost casual confidence that sent chills through every alien watching. "Challenge complete. We can do this for 100 years, but we got bored. What's next?" The Council chambers fell into absolute silence. The challenge had been meant to prove humanity's weakness. Instead, it had proven something far more terrifying. They had no weaknesses at all. Panic spread through the Galactic Council. This was never supposed to happen. Gorath-7 had crushed the best survivalists in the galaxy, broken war-hardened species, and erased the arrogant fools who thought they could outlast its horrors. But humanity, they had laughed in the face of the challenge. They had bent the planet to their will in a matter of days. And now, they were bored. Desperate, the Council scrambled for explanations. They must be cheating. An Uldari official snapped, his mandibles clicking in frustration. They smuggled in advanced technology. No, a Xalver scientist muttered, reviewing the footage with cold dread. They used nothing but the resources on the planet. They adapted, faster than anything we've ever seen. The humans, unaware, or perhaps uncaring, of the chaos they were causing, continued their work. The once deadly jungle had been transformed into a thriving settlement. They were breeding the tamed predators now, training them like war dogs. The acid storms, harnessed for energy and chemical refinement, the deadly plants, turned into medicine, food, and weapons. The entire planet was turning into a human stronghold, and it had taken them less than a week. Then something happened that sent a cold wave of terror through the Council. The human leader, a man with a confident smirk and far too much ease in his voice, sent a new transmission. "We've mapped the region. There are better locations to expand. We'll be moving soon." Moving. Expanding. They weren't even thinking about surviving anymore. They were planning to conquer more of the planet. For the first time in recorded history, the Council considered shutting down the challenge, not because the contestants were failing, but because the contestants were winning too hard. The Council was in full crisis mode. The challenge, meant to humble humanity, had backfired spectacularly. Instead of proving their weakness, it had revealed something terrifying. Humans weren't just survivors. They were conquerors. Gorath-7, a planet that had crushed civilizations, had become their playground in less than a week. And now, they wanted more. "They cannot be allowed to continue," a High Chancellor of the Council hissed, his reptilian scales bristling with unease. "Shut down the challenge. Declare an early end before." Before what? Before humanity claimed the entire planet. The thought was absurd, yet as the Council reviewed the latest footage, that possibility seemed more likely by the second. The humans had expanded beyond their original settlement, pushing into deadlier regions, clearing out more apex predators, and even establishing new outposts. What had started as a test of endurance had turned into a full-scale colonization effort. And worst of all, they weren't struggling. Live feeds showed humans laughing as they sat around fires, trading stories, making plans for the future. They were comfortable, relaxed, thriving. The final blow came when the human leader transmitted one last message. His face appeared on the Council's main screen, a casual smirk on his lips. "This was fun. If you've got a real challenge, let us know. If not, we'll be keeping Gorath-7. It's ours now." The transmission cut. Silence. Then, panic. For the first time in history, the Council was forced to confront a terrifying truth. They had spent centuries underestimating humanity. They had assumed that humans were fragile, that they needed technology, that they couldn't handle the raw brutality of the universe. They were wrong. Humanity wasn't just built for survival. They were built to win.